Good afternoon and welcome to Scrapbooking with a Twist. We're going to make an embellishment this afternoon. This is part of the embellishment hop of Scraps to Embellishments, and we're going to make this embellishment. The title of this embellishment was Get Physical, and so I decided that I would do one about working out. And so I am using my Cricut. And remember, a lot of times I use that old Cricut that some of you still have. I'll find the cover to it here in a minute. That some of you still have that uses the cartridges. And this one is Paper Doll Teen Scene. And so I am going to use pretty much this one and these clothes and this shirt in this one. So I will show you how I did that. I've cut out the pieces. This one is just the background. It will actually be her hair. And then we put this one over it and it will just leave her hair. So we're going to start with that. We are really having a good time in this embellishment hop. Ginger created this. It just started in January, and there are a bunch of us. So in the description box, there will be a list of everyone that's participating, and no one's will be the same. They will all be different. So it's so much fun to go in there and just look at all the different embellishments that were made and get ideas. And everybody kind of has a little bit different take on it and different things that they enjoy doing. And so it's just a lot of fun to go in there and look at that. So that is in the description box. If you want to join Ginger's Corner and be a part of the Facebook group, just go on Facebook and look up Ginger's Corner and you can do that. Okay, so we're going to use some liquid adhesive to glue these together. That gives you just a little bit of grace as far as getting it put together. So now we have our skin tone on top of just that background that actually provides us most of her hair. So there we've got that. I want to ink around the edges of her. That just really helps to make it stand out, and just, I don't know, it just adds a lot to it. And as you know, usually while I'm inking or doing something like that, I do the twist. And so let's go ahead and do our twist for today. And you'll notice I'm using this little, I should have done this before I glued those two together and I didn't. But with this little bitty tiny brush, I can get wherever I need to. There are just a few places where her actual skin is going to show. So I'm going to do that. And then while I'm doing that, I'm going to ink a couple of other things while I do the twist. So if you'll just bear with me. The twist today is we've just kind of started into the new year, and I thought this would be a really good, I think this premieres like the 13th of January or something like that. So we're just into the new year. So I thought it would be a good time to talk about something like that. So I'm going to talk today about leaving our past in the past. The scripture today is from 1 Timothy 1:15. And it says, "This is a faithful saying and worthy of all acceptance, that Christ Jesus came into the world to save sinners, of whom I am chief." So Paul is saying, I'm a sinner and I'm a chief among sinners. I'm one of the biggest sinners around. You know, Paul ends up writing a big portion of the New Testament. He planted churches all over his part of the world, the known world at that time. He planted churches. He did so much for the cause of Christ and so much for the building of the church that we know today. And he could have said, you know, I'm just too bad. I'm just too far gone. God's not big enough to forgive all my sin. He's talking here to Timothy, who was just a young preacher. And he's telling Timothy, this, what I'm telling you, you need to pay attention to, because it's worth listening to. And you need to listen to this. And I'm telling you from experience, I'm like the worst sinner that there ever was. and God saved me. And if he can do that, then he can save and use anybody. You see, Paul had persecuted the church. He had been kind of leading the charge. He was a young Pharisee. He was leading the charge in persecuting the church. People had been arrested because of him. People had died because of him. If you remember, he held their cloaks while they stoned Stephen. So Paul's sin against God and against his fellow man was huge. And yet, when God called him, he answered the call. He was willing to leave his past in the past and let God use him. You know, we all have a past. No matter who we are, we all have a past. For some of us, our past is yesterday because we did things that sinned against God or whatever yesterday. And for some of us, our past is years and years ago. But we have to realize that God's big enough to forgive our sin whenever it was, however horrible it seemed. God's big enough to forgive it, and then he can use us just like he did the Apostle Paul. He can use us to go ahead and do big and mighty things. He used Paul, he used Peter, he used Mary Magdalene. You can just give example after example after example of people who shouldn't have been able to be used by God, and yet they were used in mighty ways. And so there's just no pile of sin big enough. And I know I've used that terminology before, but there's no pile of sin big enough, and there's no sins too great that our God can't forgive them, and that Jesus' death on the cross doesn't cover them. So we're limiting God when we say, no, I'm unusable, I'm unsavable. We are not, because he is that big. And so we have to be like Paul and be able to leave our past in the past and let God use us for his glory and his honor and save us so that we can walk with him. Okay, so I have inked around the edges of her body. I inked her little shirt and put her pants and shirt on her. So she's beginning to come together. We're going to, let's put her shoes on. Now let's go ahead and put the rest of her hair on. Let's see, I want her hair to be like this. No. How do I want her hair? I think I want her hair to be like this. Okay, so let's put this on her. I love these little paper dolls. I use the everyday paper dolls. I use my teen paper dolls all the time. All the time. You can find them in, you can get paper dolls also just on this, like the Cricut store designer thing. But these, like I said, I've had this old Cricut for I don't know how many years, and I just keep using it. I love it. Okay, she has some shoes. Let's get her shoes on. Let's just put a little bit of glue right down here on her feet and get her shoes on. Her little tennis shoes. Because she is working out, which is something I've got to start doing. I have a hurt foot. It's getting some better. I think I need to go back to my orthopedic doctor and see about maybe getting a shot in it or something, but it is definitely better. Okay, so I'm going to put the lid on my glue because it's going to be a minute or two before we're going to need that again. Now, we need to do a little bit of... we've got to make her a face, and that's going to be fun for me to do live on camera. I did these, you know, off camera, and I did okay on them. I'm sure as soon as I start doing one live on camera, it won't go so well. So I'm going to give her some cheeks, and not, you know, I don't usually do too heavy on them. This is spun sugar that I'm using. I used Vintage Photo to ink around her little body, her arms and legs. I used black soot on the shirt, and then I'm going to do some more with black soot just around where we put those black pants on. And then this is sponge sugar for her cheeks. And now I've got to draw her eyes and her face. And like I said, now that I'm doing this on camera, I'm quite sure it won't go well. I just kind of do a little fish shape. Now I think there are pieces that, oops, that one's kind of bad, but we're just going to use it. We're going to roll with it. Give her some little eyelashes. And I'm going to give her some little eyebrows. Just a couple of little dots for her nose. And then a little mouth. I actually think there are some teensy tiny little pieces for you to do the facial features with, but they're too little for me to deal with. So I'm going to go ahead and, before I forget it, I want to ink around here, because she does have that layer of the skin tone between those two layers of black, and I just wanted to ink around that and around the edge of her little shirt. It's not really necessary, but I'm kind of a OCD, and so I do. All right, so there's that. So she's starting to come together. We need to, I'm going to do some white highlights here and there. So let's go ahead. This is just a white gel pen. I don't even know. It's a Mitsubishi pencil company. I think the ones this is like got Chinese writing all over it. But I think the ones I usually use are, it's Uniball. That's what I thought. So I'm going to just, where these two hairs, like the hair from the back and the hair from the front, it's hard for me to see and I don't want to get over in it, but I'm just going to go around that. Almost looks like a little headband. Do that, maybe that, a couple of places. And then I want to give her eyes a little white dot, just to give her some little, and we're going to call that good on all of that. Oh, we need to do her shoestrings, and I just did 3 little dots on each side. And then ran a little shoestring across them. And then on this one that's kind of sideways, 3 little dots, and then ran the strings out. Doesn't really matter what you do there. It's going to be cute. All right, so that's kind of got her done. I think that's everything on her. And then I want to make the little title thing. Now, I've already put it together so that you didn't have to wait for me to glue all of these down. But let's go ahead and cut the banners. I marked the centers of each end so that we could cut the banner. Little fishtail banner. On each end. And I did put a little more room on the beginning end than I did the tail end, because I cut out a couple of little, what are they called, dumbbells, the little bitty ones. These little things like you use with your hands. I did cut out a couple of those to put down here. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue in a couple of places for those. And we'll stick those on there. They were all part of this little cricket, all the cutouts on that little cricket. And then I do want to ink the edges of our little title with the black soot. Motorcycle just went by. You could probably hear it. I want to just ink the edges with this black soot just to kind of dress it up a little. Now, you could have done this before, but I wanted to put my letters on, but it's easy because the only two that have descenders, I can just go around. It's not a big deal. So that gets us our embellishment for, I believe it's the week of January 13th. This goes up, and the theme was Get Physical. And so we have our little workout girl and her sweat equity. And you could put those together however you wanted to. Use that as a title and put this down with your pictures. Whatever works best for your layout is what you would do. I hope you enjoyed this little video with our hop for scraps to embellishments, and I hope you enjoyed the twist. Thanks for dropping by my channel. If you would, please give me a thumbs up, maybe give me a comment. I love to hear your comments. I love our conversations, and I just hope you have a blessed day, and above all else, bless somebody else. Thank you.